Good morning, everybody. Minister, members of the Canadian Forces, department officials, welcome to Defence Committee this morning to discuss the supplementary estimates. I hit autopilot on the way to work this morning and ended up in the old room. So if you're wondering why I just breezed in here at the last second, I was making some pretty good time up Main Street there. But thank you for coming. Minister, I'm going to give you a few minutes to deliver your opening remarks, and then we'll get into questions. Sir, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Standing Committee, great to see all of you again. Bonjour. Today, I am pleased to be here to discuss the Supplementary Estimate C, the 2017-18, and the interim estimates for 2018-19 for the Department of National Defence and the Communication Security Establishment. Here with me, as always, my Deputy Minister, Jody Thomas, Lieutenant General Perron, Acting Vice Chief of Defence Staff, and the Chief of Communication Security Establishment, Greta Bosenmeyer, and key C members of the Defence team. So before getting to the main subject of today's gathering, so let me say a few words about my recent announcement. Our government's decision to deploy Canadian personnel to Mali in support of the United Nations mission in Mali. In response to a formal request from the United Nations, Canada will deploy an aviation task force, a medium utility, and armed helicopters for up to a 12-month period. This contribution is aligned with the government's renewed commitment to the United Nations peace operations, and SMART pledge approach will address a critical capability requirement for effective stabilization of Mali and the wider Sahel. The Canadian Armed Forces have been instructed to begin their planning for this. So now, turning now to the Supplementary Estimate C, Mr. Chair, the Department has requested approximately $780 million to cover costs to be incurred during the remainder of the current fiscal year. Some of that funding will contribute directly to our people, and that is what I'd like to begin, how I would like to begin my remarks today. So, Mr. Chair, we call upon the Canadian Armed Forces personnel for some of the most difficult tasks needed to keep Canada and Canadians safe and secure. We ask them to deploy for very long periods of time, to leave their families and comforts at home. Every day we rely on their loyalty, their strength, their courage. They know that they face unique stressors during and after their military careers, but they don the uniform to keep Canada safe and contribute to a more peaceful world. They are steadfast in their service to Canadians, and so must we in supporting them. That is why caring for the women and men of our armed forces is a primary focus of our new defense policy, Strong, Secure, and Engage, and in part, and it's part of the supplementary estimates as well. So as part of these estimates, we are requesting $17.5 million for DND/CAF for the Total Health and Wellness Strategy. This initiative will give Canadian Armed Forces members access to a comprehensive, first-rate healthcare system. The strategy addresses both physical and mental well-being, and it focuses on promoting healthy behaviors both in the workplace and at home. We're also ensuring our people work in healthy environments, and which is also free of harassment. You are well aware of Operation Honor, the Canadian Armed Forces mission to eliminate harmful and inappropriate sexual behavior in the military. But National Defence is also doing its best to ensure members of the armed forces and their families live in a healthy environment as well. That is why we are seeking $800,000 to increase support to family crisis teams and to members of the Canadian Armed Forces and their families affected by domestic violence. As you may recall, the government has also announced its joint CAF Veterans Affairs Suicide Prevention Strategy, as well as our intention to produce a pension for life. Mr. Chair, only by providing the Canadian Armed Forces with the utmost care and treatment can we expect them to continue doing the invaluable work they are doing, and they deserve our unwavering support. So turning now to SSE, in Supplementary Estimate C, we are requesting $435.4 million in additional funding to continue implementing the defense policy. Of that amount, $417.8 million will go to support SSE's overall program activities like operations and readiness training, CAF recruitment and retention programs, and cybersecurity initiatives. These are baseline activities and requirements, and things our department and armed forces need on a day-to-day basis. The $100,000 we are requesting for the Defense Engagement Program is an important step towards meeting our policy commitment to bolster economic outreach. Through conferences, roundtables, and workshops, the DEP will inform and challenge the policy assumptions and thinking of the Department and the Canadian Armed Forces. It does this while fostering the next generation of Canadian security and defense scholars in the process. Moving beyond SSE, we are requesting $277.6 million for CAF international operations. So, Mr. Chair, as I believe everyone here understands, our safety at home requires our engagement in the world. More than 1,800 Canadian military personnel are deployed on 16 operations worldwide. This includes Latvia, where the Canadian Armed Forces is leading a battle group as part of NATO's enhanced forward presence. It includes Iraq, where the Canadian Armed Forces is contributing to the global coalition to counter Daesh. It also includes the Ukraine, where the Canadian Armed Forces has trained over 6,200 Ukrainian soldiers. New funding in these estimates for Operation Reassurance, Impact, Unifier, and Artemis will ensure Canada maintains its commitment to international stability and security. In terms of other line items, National Defence is carrying forward $12.2 million from the last fiscal year as contribution towards Canada's share of the NATO military budget. NATO is a cornerstone of our national security. In funding it, we are bolstering the stability of the transatlantic region to which Canada belongs. But NATO offers us more than security. It gives us access to military equipment and infrastructure. It gives us additional source of strategic information and analysis. And it gives us an equal voice in important decisions that affect security and stability in North America, Europe, and regions beyond. Our commitment to NATO remains ironclad. The recent released NATO annual report for 2017 shows that Canada has increased our defense spending by almost 5%. We continue to make investments in Canadian security and work with our allies to support a peaceful and prosperous world. Also essential to our stability and security is ensuring the Canadian Armed Forces have modern facilities and equipment. We have been criticized in the past for how quickly we are or not on spending money on these projects. But major acquisitions are complex and they take time. Criticism notwithstanding, the Department is making progress on a number of major purchases. Notably, we are making the most significant investment in the Royal Canadian Air Force in decades. The $5.9 million we are requesting in capital funding will go towards both running the competition for 88 advanced fighter aircraft to replace the current fleet, and towards purchasing fighter aircraft and parts from Australia as an interim measure. So, Mr. Chair, let me also touch briefly on a few of the smaller line items. More than half of our current infrastructure is more than 50 years old, which is why we are seeking $6.2 million for 10 construction and repair projects on CAF bases and other defense properties. As announced in our defense policy, we are also requesting $6.2 million to launch IDEAS, which is Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security. The program will encourage private sector innovators, big and small, to try their hand at providing the armed forces with solutions to complex defense challenges. These estimates also include $9.7 million for national defense's role in Canada's hosting of the G7 summit, where the armed forces will deploy more than 2,000 personnel in support of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Finally, I would like to say a few words about the transfers in 3 estimates. National Defence will be receiving $3.9 million in transfers from other departments and transferring $8.5 million to other departments. One notable example is a transfer of $5.8 million to Global Affairs in support of counterterrorism and capacity building program. This program provides countries such as Lebanon and Jordan with tools, technology, and equipment for confronting terrorism, as well as training programs for their personnel and support in building much-needed infrastructure. On a closing note, I will address the interim estimates. The interim estimates are part of the government's commitment to provide more coherent information to Parliament. They enhance the transparency of the review process and align the federal budget and estimates. CSE requires $147 million to cover costs related to program expenditures for the first 3 months of the fiscal year 2018-19. With these funds, CSE will continue to conduct its critical foreign intelligence and cybersecurity activities. D&D requires $4.8 billion for the same period. These funds will allow us to cover the day-to-day operating costs, salaries, utilities, and maintenance, while continuing to implement the major initiatives I have mentioned. This $4.8 billion represents 1/4 of the total main estimates, which will be finalized and tabled by mid-April. Mr. Chair, the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces are committed to ensuring that the money we manage has a positive impact on our most important asset, the women and men in uniform. Now, I'm very proud of the historic investments we are delivering through our defense policy, and we will continue building on both of the government priorities and those of the Canadian Armed Forces through our smart investments. So I just wanted to say that we are just getting started. Thank you very much, and open to your questions.
Thank you, Minister. My understanding is that we have you for an hour and department officials for the second hour. I'm going to have to keep time tight, and I understand some of the questions will be passed on a single question to other people to help support you in answers. If you see this, anyone sees this, that's 30 seconds to wrap it up, please, so I can make sure it's fair for everyone. Having said that, I'm going to give the first 7-minute question to Mr. Robillard. The floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Minister, and welcome to your staff as well. In accordance with the new defense policy, protection, security, commitment, or engagement, you last week announced a summer jobs program, full-time jobs, for reservists of the Canadian Armed Forces. As you know, the cadets' cause is dear to me. Might you tell us more about this program, its benefits, and its functioning for former and new reservists?
And I was very proud to announce the program for the reserves, a commitment for summer employment for first 4 years of a reservist career. And I did this in Kelowna at the British Columbia Dragoons, a regiment that I know very well. And what this does is sends a very positive message to people who are wanting to join the reserves. It shows the value to the commitment that they're making, but more importantly, it allows a very predictable sense for them, because a lot of the people who join the reserves are students in university, trade schools, and it gives them the money that they can actually plan to finish out their career. And on average, sometimes a degree or training will take about 4 years. So this gives them that predictability. And equally important is the cadet program. And I actually, at the British Columbia Dragoons, I actually got to meet some cadets as well. And I reiterated my message that I've always sent every time I see cadets or speak about them, which is our cadet program is the best leadership program in the country. And we are looking at on ways and how we can enhance that. And one of the things, and one important aspect that I'm looking at immediately is how can we in the Canadian Armed Forces increase the number of opportunities for cadets to go on summer camps. And in some cases, because not everybody gets to go on summer camps, there's people get selected due to previous cuts in the past has reduced the ability for people to go on these camps. And I want to make sure that we give an opportunity. So we have a little bit more work to do on this. And I think that is one of the key priorities for me and how we can increase that, because I think that'll have a significant impact. And it goes in line with what we're trying to do with the announcement as well, is to kind of have more reservists working in the summertime as well.
Thank you, Minister. Grâce à sa politique de défense.
Thanks to its defense policy, protection, security, engagement, the government is deploying new efforts to enhance health and resilience for our military. In the sub-C, to this end, the government is asking for the transfer of $230 million to Shared Services Canada in order to fund the construction of a new healthcare services centre at Saint-Jean, at that base in Quebec. Might the minister tell us a little bit more about the need for this project and give us an update on the way this is moving forward, this major project.
To answer this question in the details.
Thank you very much. We are heavily investing in two aspects. There's two aspects to your questions. The reopening of Collège Militaire Royal Saint-Jean, where we need to have the healthcare facilities that are equal to what we have on the campus of the Royal Military College in Kingston. But further, Strong, Secure and Engaged provides the funding long-term for advanced medical care for serving members, including mental health, physical care, physical fitness, sociological testing to ensure, psychological testing to ensure that they're mentally well. And this project is part of a recapitalization initiative that is a part of healthcare facilities across the country. But Collège Militaire Royal Saint-Jean is critically important because we will be accepting new students in the degree granting program this year.
Le ministère de la Défense.
The Department of National Defense is asking for close to $6.2 million for projects at Canadian Forces bases and for other establishments of national defense. Might you describe in greater detail the projects that would be funded through this fund, as well which bases would be targeted and what other establishments of the defense structure would benefit from these funds and why?
So we are making the significant investments in infrastructure at defense facilities across the country, and this will provide our military with the facilities they need to continue the training and operating successfully. So as part of the federal infrastructure and investments program, we will be spending $452 million on infrastructure project upgrades across the country, and the programs carried forward will be $6.2 million from 16-17 to 17. There are 10 projects are being completed by the end of March, and they range in scope from health and safety repairs to airfields and hangar repairs, and military housing repairs and recapitalization, as well as heating and ventilation systems. And one of the things I want to kind of mention to this is, as we talk about just particular projects, when I go to the various bases, I look at the main priorities of the buildings, so the housing, the headquarters where people actually work, and facilities for like their health centers, and what state that they're in. And in the last 2 years, we've had a significant investment into these programs because the maintenance and upkeep was not there. And as you know, if you do not have the ability to continually kind of keep the modernization of these buildings, that there actually becomes a time when they actually are in poor repair. And so now we had this situation across Canada, and these investments are going to go a long way in modernizing our facilities.
Thank you, Mr. MP Bazin.
Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today, and welcome our government officials from National Defence and Canadian Armed Forces for joining us. In the last election, the Liberal Party said we will not lapse military spending from year to year. Is that correct, Minister? Yes or no?
We've been working as part of our plan is to be very fiscally responsible with our money, to making sure that the money that's invested in defense is done wisely.
Funding in this current fiscal year?
If you allow me to answer that question, right? Because we need to put this into context as well. To be able to make sure that we manage the money, it requires the appropriate people to manage the various projects. And right now, we are starting to rebuild on this. So currently, we don't have any lapse in funding. That's the money that we're going to be losing. And I'd like to turn to...
Actually, I only got so much time, and I'd like to get a few things on the record here. Now, David Perry, who is a defense analyst and somebody that we all respect greatly, and there's been another analysis done, said that national defense is on track to fall billions short of spending outlined in the policy, the Defense Strong, Secure and Engaged. while $6 billion in capital investments was forecasted by DND, it was only allocated $4 billion this year, and there's no extra $2 billion in the supplementary estimates. So is that lapse funding?
So I'm glad you actually asked that question. So we would love to be able to move on projects as quickly as possible. Yes, we would have liked to be able to do the full $6 billion. But the problem that we also faced is certain projects that weren't ready. We're not going to write a check if the delivery of certain projects is not going to be there. And then we also had, we're trying to improve our procurement system, where with some projects we could not move forward. Now we need to be able to put this into context. And if you recall, during your time in government, there was the strategic review and draft, which cut a lot of the funding and prevented the procurement department from increasing their numbers. As you know, if you increase your projects, you need the people with the right expertise to be able to move these forward. So as we're increasing our numbers now, we will have the right number of people to move these projects forward. So we have more work to do. We need to put the key people in place. This is something that we are working towards. We had significant improvements on this, but there is a lot more work to do. And year by year, we will get better at this. But one of the things that's extremely important.
Minister,
this is a very important piece that I have to mention there is, you want me to answer the question?
This is my time.
You can manage your time.
Yeah, just excuse me, Minister.
Yeah, but you can't cut me off when I'm trying to answer the question for you, right?
I know, but at the same time, let's get down to something instead of just providing extra context.
Okay, sure.
Let's get down to some of the details, because according to David Perry and others, there's $2 billion in unspent money here. I see in the budget there's only $1.9 billion that's actually getting carried forward. So there's over $1 billion worth of money here that isn't being allocated. So again, what's not getting funded out of Strong Security Engaged?
Everything in Strong Security Engaged is fully funded. What you see here is certain projects, if they're not mature enough to move it forward, we can't just spend money on projects that have matured. So these projects will move forward. The timing of it just hasn't been done. And I know where you're trying to go with this, because the points they've been trying to making as well. But I can assure you, Strong Security Engaged, all the projects are fully funded. And as we have more people to manage those projects, we'll be able to improve our time.
So us as committee here want to know what's funded, because the budget was almost mute on national defense. There was no section on it at all. According to the parliamentary budget officer, and he looks at this and he gave note to us as parliamentarians, he says nowhere in the 2018 budget did the government provide a detailed and current reconciliation between Strong Security Engaged framework and the budget forecast. So, you go on, you look at it, he says the national defense, isn't giving the reconciliation. There's no idea for us as parliamentarians how taxpayer dollars are being used. Where's the transparency here, Minister? Like, we want to know what's the plan. You've got a 20-year plan. We haven't seen it. Will you table that plan?
In fact, actually, we're going to be the plan that we've wanted. But for example, what you've been stating is not in the budget. This is one of the reasons why when we SSE, we did it independently, that we have fully funded the defense policy as a government. It has been outlined in the fiscal framework, and we will be outlining for in terms of our plan, and this will become out in due course in the mains as well, of what our plan will be for SSE.
Minister, you've said yourself that you want to make sure that you and the government can be held accountable by Canadians and by parliamentarians. But if we can't see the plan, you say it's fully costed, but we can't see the plan. Will you give us the plan on how you're going to actually carry out the defense strategy, Strong Security Engaged? How are you going to spend the money over the next 20 years? How are we using taxpayers' money? And ultimately, how can we help you do a better job on making those expenditures?
Absolutely. So it'll be coming out in the main estimates, and the defense investment plan, we're looking at launching that in May of this year.
So the parliamentary budget officer asked for the 20-year plan. You gave it to him, I guess, after much duress. Will you table the same information you gave to the parliamentary budget officer to this committee so that we can analyze
this investment plan, I committed to in our defense policy to outline that, and we are going to be submitting the defense investment plan in May 2018. And one thing I can assure you, this is going to be done. But keep in mind, the defense policy was just put into place last year. It takes time for the department to be able to put this plan together. If you just make quick knee-jerk reaction decisions, this is where you mess things up. I want to make sure that if we have a plan, it's going to be one that's also going to work, that has a flexibility to move it forward, and so that we can actually spend the money and move projects forward. It's always just about recruiting the right people to get this done. A lot of work needs to be done to fill those gaps that were left.
Okay, Minister, I want to just ask one final question before we run out of time here, and it's on the replacement of our CF-18s, the CF-18 replacement.
Yep.
And you always talk about capability gap. One of the concerns that I have, and has been brought to light, is that we have a huge shortfall right now in number of fighter pilots that we have in the Canadian Armed Forces, pushing to upwards to 70 pilots have left with no replacements coming on stream to fill that type of attrition. Is that the capability gap that we have now?
We identified the need to have more pilots. I mean, for example, we knew that we're not from your commitment for 65 aircraft, we've gone to 88. We're going to need more pilots. So we've actually, even last year, before the defense policy came out, we knew we were going to need more pilots and directed the Air Force to start recruiting.
I'm going to have to leave.
Not just the pilots. We got to make sure the maintenance folks as well. So this is something that we're seized of.
I'm going to have to leave it there. MP Garrison.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister for being here today. I do want to focus on estimates. Before I do, I just want to make one remark regarding the Mali Peacekeeping Mission, as you mentioned, and that is, of course, that New Democrats do welcome a recommitment to peacekeeping internationally, even if the promise doesn't seem to be exactly what it was before. We do believe there's a role for Canada in supporting the efforts for peace and stability in Mali, and we hope there'll be agreement among the parties for a further debate in the House. So let me turn to more estimate-related questions, and you probably have guessed the first thing I'll ask you about is the last thing I asked you about when you were here last time, and that's the Phoenix Pay system. I know that you're not the minister responsible for the system, but as the Minister of Defense and all your civilian employees, we're still seeing very severe problems in morale, recruitment, and retention as a result of the pay problems. And I asked you at the end of November, you promised to fix the cases for 3 individuals, which were fairly egregious. That finally did happen, but it took months, despite your good intentions. It took months to do that. After I asked you in the House of Commons, Minister Qualtrough office approached me and said, give us your worst cases. We gave them 14 cases on the 2nd of February. Nothing has happened on any of those cases. So my question to you as the minister is, what is it that you can do as the minister to help out the employees, the civilian employees of DND who are still, literally in my riding, hundreds of them suffering with incorrect pay, impacts on their child benefits, impacts on their tax system. So what, as minister, are you able to do to assist them with these problems?
No, so first of all, I want to completely agree with you that this is unacceptable, and we have a lot more work to do on this. And every department is affected, and we do have a significant number of employees. And we will go case by case. So some of the names, and I'll have the Deputy Minister just answer that because we actually have addressed them. But one thing I ask you is whether bring it up in the House, no problem. If you want to do that, it's your prerogative. But please give me, email me directly about access to it, or most quickest way possible to me. And I can assure you, I will have those names directly to the Deputy Minister so that we can be addressed. I know that she works on this on a regular basis, and I get a weekly update on this.
Can I just, I'm sorry, I'm just going to cut off the Deputy Minister. Can I just say that the Band-Aid approach here, you can't fix this egregious case by egregious case because they continue to pile up. It's not that there's no new cases. So I appreciate your offer, and we will take you up on every one of those, and you will be surprised at how many hundreds we have to give you. I want to turn now to another outstanding issue here at committee that we asked you about before, and that was there was a unanimous motion in this committee to ask you to allow the military ombudsman to revise the service records for LGBTQ service people who were dismissed with less than honorable discharges. And before the apology, I was given an indication that we had to wait for the apology in the House of Commons. We had the apology last November. So can you tell us when the ministry, either when you as minister will authorize the military ombudsman to revise those records, or what other process you see? Because we've now been almost 6 months beyond the apology, and there's still no progress on revising those service records.
One thing I can assure you that we are committed. We are committed to this, and I will get you a much more thorough update on this. This is something that we did want to get the apology done, and I think you can agree how sincere it actually was. We wouldn't doubt me, and I will get back to you with a more thorough answer on this. But the process itself, I can assure you, is being worked on.
Well, with respect, Mr. Minister, after 6 months after the apology, I would hope that we're somewhere closer to actually getting this process underway than you seem to indicate. I'm not asking for a progress report. I'm asking when the process will start.
Jody.
The process is underway to look at every record of every person affected by the LGBTQ2 apology. And so it is a case-by-case review of their record through our privacy process. And then it moves on to the second stage where we're looking at service record and how to compensate people through the class action suit. It's a very onerous and lengthy process that we have to get right, but it has begun.
But I guess I would argue that there's certainly no need to wait for the class action lawsuit to revise the service records. And it's the failure to revise service records that denies people certain veterans benefits, but more importantly, it denies them recognition for their important service to the country, and it actually, in many cases, excludes them from participating in the military community through things like the Legion. So there's an urgency here that's separate from the compensation.
Absolutely. Each case is we have to look at every individual's case, change the record, resubmit it into the system. And so that is going on a case-by-case basis, not because we're waiting, but because you can't do it in bulk. Each person is an individual, and you have to adjust the service details person by person. And so that's...
Doing that now.
Yes, not only a team, I'm giving my commitment that we are actually working on this. We just need to do it. We need to make sure it's done well, right?
I'm actually disappointed that Admiral Bennett's not here with us this morning to talk about Operation Honor in detail. But first, I want to acknowledge the $800,000 allocated for families affected by domestic violence. I think that's an important initiative in the budget. But we have heard, or at least I have heard locally, lots of concerns about whether the resources provided for Operation Honor, which I'm not criticizing at all as an initiative, but the resources that are provided to make sure that Operation Honor is effective down through all the ranks aren't adequate, that there's not enough money for the training, that there's not enough money for making sure that the survivor support programs are in place. And so I just wonder what progress we're making in this budget on providing more resources to Operation Honor. So
Operation Honor, in terms of what we're trying to achieve, is not just strictly what the operation itself. It's just about looking at the Canadian Armed Forces as a whole, and this is as part of our defense policy. The people are our number one priority. This all goes into it. This is not just about addressing each case, but also making sure that we create the environment from the time that we recruit and how things are going to be done. So we will make sure that it's not just about Op Honor. How do we create the appropriate environment in the Canadian Armed Force to allow everybody to succeed in a harassment-free workplace?
But part of that, of course...
It's right on 7 minutes, so I'm going to have to yield the floor to MP Spengeman. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, it's great to have you back along with your senior leadership team. Welcome. You've just returned from Iraq and Kuwait, and you met with key officials, allies, and Canadian military force staff to get an update on the progress in the region. I'm wondering if you could convey to the committee how, in your assessment, Operation Impact is going, and how the funding that's requested is going to enable us to carry out our responsibilities under that mission.
No, thank you. I had the privilege of just returning from Kuwait in Iraq, where I not only got to thank our Canadian Armed Forces members, but also meet with the key leadership. Progress has actually gone better than planned. We're actually, in terms of the campaign plan, we're about 8 months ahead of what we originally planned, which is a phenomenal, good news story. And what this means is that Daesh right now cannot hold ground, which is a good thing. And now we're doing the assessment of what are the things that we need to do to making sure that the Iraqi security forces are able to have the right training capacity to be able to hold what they have, but also more importantly, not allow themselves to be put into a situation like they have in the past. So we're looking at capacity building needs, preventing any resurgence of Daesh as well. I got to speak with General Funk, the commander, U.S. commander on the ground. So we're looking at, right now General Vance is actually looking at areas where we can do the capacity building, where does NATO fit in, and also the wider picture of making sure that there's political stability and unity in the country as well. So there's a lot of work that has been done, but now we're actually at the stage of making sure that we do a better assessment to making sure that we align our assets. I have extended the role to hospital because that's a need of the coalition, but in terms of the capacity building and preventing Daesh from resurging, we are doing some training right now and working with partner forces, but a much more thorough assessment is being done at the moment. And when when I'm briefed on that, more decisions will be made.
Thank you very much, Minister. Through Strong, Secure, Engage, the government's committed to leverage innovators to encourage innovation and accelerate the adoption of new ideas in the defence community. And I understand that the Innovation for Defence Excellence and Security Initiative, better known as IDEAS, will do this by introducing flexible new approaches to stimulate innovation through a range of activities. These include competitions, contests, networks, and sandboxes to test field concepts. And I'm wondering if you could outline for the committee how this initiative is going to support the Canadian Armed Forces.
No, this is one thing I'm extremely excited about. This is where we listen to industry on how they fit into this, but more importantly, this is about when you setting up the Canadian Armed Forces and looking into the future, 20 years from now, is making sure that the Canadian Armed Forces have the necessary tools to be relevant. So this is about anticipating challenges and looking at problems and having them solved. So rather than us trying to solve the problem, we want to throw problems out to industry and compete the problem itself and look at new ideas. So this is about spawning a brand new innovation. And as you know, defense innovation is very unique, and we have some unique challenges. And we're confident that this program will be able to not only help solve some of our problems into the future, but also helps industry as well to potentially look at new products being developed. So this is going to be launched shortly, but this is going to fit, I thought, also very well into the wider innovation agenda that our government has announced.
Minister, thank you very much. In a similar vein, the Defence Engagement Program is requesting $600,000, I think, under the revised estimates. I'm wondering if you could share with the committee why this program is important and how it is going to connect with the other initiative you just mentioned and help to advance the work of the Canadian Forces.
Again, I'm very equally excited about this program, is because this program was cut in the past during the various reductions that were made before our time. What this does is making sure that we reach out to experts, being able to commission reports, getting them to challenge our views and assumptions, and making sure that we have the best research ideas in defense. But more importantly, how do we look at developing new talent in the defense and security field? And Mr. Bazan talked about Dave Perry. He's actually a product of this program, and this is what we need. We need people who have the right expertise to be able to challenge us to making sure that we're moving in the right direction. And this new investment is going to do just that.
Minister, thank you. Budget 2018, in a very profound, transformative way, takes gender equality very seriously. And I wondered if I could take the remaining time to ask you about GBA Plus, Gender-Based Analysis Plus, your own views and perhaps also those of your colleagues. The government proudly renewed its commitment to gender-based analysis across government. And I'm wondering, with respect to the Canadian Forces, if you can give us a status update and let us know your perspective on the way forward on this important issue.
Sure. As you know, our defense policy was not created and then we did GBA Plus analysis. It was actually done all the way through as we developed it. This is something that a message that we're trying to send very deliberately and very strongly, that we want to reflect the population that we serve. And any organization, including ours, are going to be making sure that we expand the talent pool. It just makes sense. If we don't expand and look at everybody, we as an organization are going to be losing out. So the goal is to increase by 1% every single year till we hit a mark of 25% of women in the Canadian Armed Forces. But that is not a benchmark we want to stop at. That's the start, the catalyst to keep going until we actually get to gender parity.
Minister, from the perspective of recruitment, young women who are aspiring to join the Canadian Armed Forces, is GBA Plus or is our focus on gender equality leading to any differences in the way that we recruit at the moment to make sure that young women take a look at the Canadian Forces as an employer of choice?
Absolutely. We have looked at this. I've spoken with General Lamar, who's in charge of the program. But one of the things is this is not just about doing GBA plus analysis, and I can't stress this enough. And everywhere I go, this is what I talk about. I said it's up to us to create the environment within the Canadian Armed Forces. We have to create an environment for people to succeed. And we as leaders have to also lead by example on this in every organization that we're at. And because if we don't, imagine if we start recruiting and that issue is not fixed, we will lose the best and brightest.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to move to 5-minute questions. MP Garrettson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Minister, for being here today. I want to talk a little bit about the just over $12 million in the supplementary estimates that's put towards NATO. I know that recently Canada has shown its strong commitment to NATO, and I want to go back to a decision that you recently made that followed a decision that had been previously made. That's about the AWACS program, the aerial radar program. The Harper Conservatives chose to pull out of that program a number of years ago, and they justified it using the following reason. The move makes strategic sense because Canada is looking to develop its own systems, especially when it comes to drones. Fundamentally, it is a better way for the government to focus our defense spending, and we're trying to put more of our defense spending towards Canadian capabilities. It was later questioned in the Ottawa Citizen, an article dating back to December of 2014. It was reported that the previous government's decision to withdraw from NATO's AWACS program created quite a problem for NATO. The withdrawal placed the program in a precarious position, according to Deputy Commander Patty Teakle. Earlier in February of this year, you announced when you were in Brussels that Canada would be rejoining NATO's AWACS program, and I'm wondering if you can speak to the benefit that it provides to our allies in rejoining the NATO AWACS program.
No, thank you. In terms of NATO, our government has been very clear on this, on our support for NATO and a multilateralism approach. In terms of withdrawing from the program of the previous government, I mean, a lot of cuts were made. And I've outlined that from whether it was the deficit reduction action plan that they had or the strategic review, and those are one of the programs. How they tend to justify this up to them. But this created a lot of problems at NATO. When a key founding member withdraws from a very significant program, it then forces other nations having to step up. We put them in a very difficult position. So this is our re-engagement at NATO was a necessary step because right now NATO unity is so important. We need to send a very aggressive message to Russia that NATO matters. NATO unity matters. Solidarity is there. And we've done that, whether it's Enhanced Forward Battle Group, and we've demonstrated this. And the AWACS program is not just about being part of a program. It's also making sure that we take the lessons learned from all the different nations. Because as I stated, as more nations that are involved in this, we're going to develop better programs as well in interoperability.
What was the reaction of our allies to that announcement?
It was ecstatic. We had especially the U.S., the military leadership, Sakir himself came up to our ambassador. I think that NATO nations, partner nations, are very happy that Canada is stepping out because our voice matters at the table. When we speak with credibility. We bring approaches where we don't have the certain difficulties other nations have had. We bring a very neutral voice, but at the same time, we send a very strong voice. And especially, I can't stress enough right now how important it is to send a very strong message to Russia, and NATO provides that message.
And I'm glad you brought up Russia. There were reports that the AWACS program had a key role in tracking Russian military aircraft in the crisis in Ukraine, as well as there's suggestions from the United States that they have asked NATO to contribute to AWACS in the war against the Islamic State. And, I'm wondering if you can comment on why it is so important that this particular program, the AWACS program, why it's so important to NATO.
I can't get into the details of the technical side of things, but the air domain and how that operates, it requires a lot of sophistication, and it's not just technology, it's the people that are trained to use it. We've been part of this program, especially with the U.S. for some time, and have a lot of experience in it. And to stay at the cutting edge, you have to continually be part of it. So not We've not only increased our participation at NATO, and will do so in the coming future, as well as the Air Force looks at how many people that they actually have. But we're also increasing our work with the U.S. as well. I mean, this is absolutely critical when it comes to looking at not just NATO's defense, but our own aerospace defense.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
MP Gallant.
And through you to the Minister. Minister, in your opening remarks, you mentioned that caring for the women and men of the armed forces is the primary focus of our defense policy. Minister, why then have you reversed the recommendation in the SCONVA Quality of Life Report, which provides a tax-free posting allowance? Why have you permitted healthcare workers who care for our ill and injured soldiers, many of them who are married to serving soldiers or who are veterans themselves, to be subjected to thousands of dollars in pay cuts as of this April 1st? And this includes mental health nurses who work in warrior support, nurses tasked with safeguarding those deploying to Mali. How are you going to find the expertise to properly inoculate the people who are going to a country that had 8 Ebola cases when you're cutting the experienced medical personnel and replacing them with people off the street? And why do pregnant civilian military healthcare workers married to Canadian Armed Forces members have to go to the Human Rights Tribunal to keep their jobs, even if they accept an across-the-board pay slash? So also, would you provide to the committee the contracts of the male and female health workers to prove that male workers doing the exact same job as the female workers are not getting paid more than the females in that exact same position? And the Prime Minister stated that ill and injured Canadian Armed Forces members are losing their special allowance pay was an unintended negative consequence. So what's being done to correct these unintended consequences? And not a single person who was involved in the consultation process for the new defense policy was in favor of a deployment to Mali. So can you tell us how this deployment to Mali is in Canada's national interest? Thank you.
Ms. Gallant, I'll be honest with you, I really don't know where you're getting your sources from. We're actually growing our health personnel by 600. We've actually increased the pay raise. We've actually improved the benefits for our members as well. And I can assure you, when it comes to looking at things, we're putting forward right now, and it should be approved very soon, the relocation benefits, improving them, actually increasing them, so that relocation is going to be better, and that will be coming up shortly. A lot more work that needs to be done, but we're moving on quickly as possible, some of those things. This is one thing. When looking after our people, we are diligently looking at this. Myself, the Deputy Minister and the Chief of Defence Staff work at this very closely, and I can assure you this is having the impact, because when I meet soldiers everywhere I go, not only we're actually talking about the defense policy, what we're doing, but we actually want to hear about, are there things that we have missed so that we can actually fix some of those things. And when it comes to Mali, when it comes to making a government level decision to where we go, the military is involved. We can take the advice of the Chief of Defence Staff, gives me the military advice on what's needed. We have to be engaged in the world if we want to be safe at home. The importance of working with our allies. What's happening in the G5 Sahel is having an impact not only to us but also to our partners. The migrant crisis that's going into Europe, if Europe is affected, we get affected. So we need to do our part. We have key capabilities that can provide tremendous support for those UN missions, and that's what we're providing. Helicopter support that not many nations have the ability to do so. And smart pledging, what that means is not just we're going in as part of a long-term rotation, so we're already in discussions with our partners about who's going to be coming in next. This is about improving security in other parts of the world, making other people's lives better, because it does impact us directly.
So with respect to the, where am I getting these numbers from, when the military cannot fill the holes for medical personnel, it employs civilian employees, many of whom are veterans or who are the spouses of our serving CAF members. So as of April 1st, they are taking an across-the-board pay cut. These mental health workers, nurses, pharmacy assistants in bases across Canada. And these are the very people who care for our ill and injured. Every time a person with a soldier with an OSI has to start with a new mental health worker, that's another trauma and frustration with her or him recovering. So here we have a huge drop in pay, and they're married to some of the
MP Glenn, I'm gonna have to leave it
increase
in order
pay,
to
and we're increasing our numbers of health care workers in the military.
All right, I'm gonna have to leave it there to keep everybody on time, make sure everyone has a chance. MP Fisher, you have the floor. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here, and thank you for your team being here as well. Minister, every year the Sackville welcomes, the HMCS Sackville welcomes thousands of visitors to her summer home at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic on the Halifax waterfront. And this 76-year-old ship represents an iconic symbol of the Battle of the Atlantic and the sacrifice of those who gave their lives and all those who served and all those who continue to serve Canada at sea. The Sackville is their last remaining corvette of the 269 Allied corvettes from the Second World War, and she continues to serve as Canada's naval memorial and a National Historic Site. So my constituents, many of them veterans, have long advocated for the restoration and the preservation of the HMCS Sackville. I wonder if you could maybe provide some details on how the government is going to ensure the long-term preservation of the Sackville.
No, and you know my opinion on this when it comes to the history of the military. It's important for us to not only remember our history, but to teach it and pass it on to our next generations so that they realize the tremendous sacrifice that has been made on their behalf so they can live the life that they live, and more importantly, be engaged with how do you prevent tragedies where militaries have to go out and go into conflict. So we were very happy, and I just want to thank our Deputy Minister and the team who were able to find a way to be able to support this. So a total of $3.5 million has been made available for a trust that's over 2 years, of which 1.4 will be transferred this year. And this is going to will be used for repairs that will address areas of significant deterioration for the vessel and extending the life from by 8 to 10 years. So very proud of that fact that we were able to do this because it is extremely important on this. And I actually just want to have Deputy Minister just talk a few moments about this.
So we're very pleased to be able to provide funding for the Sackville. As the Minister said, we have a one-time opportunity for the up to $3.5 million, and we're working with partner departments to provide $100,000 of in-kind work on the Sackville every year. So we would be able to do constant maintenance, and she wouldn't fall into the disrepair that she has over the last few years. And so that should be able to preserve the Sackville as a memorial to the Battle of the Atlantic in perpetuity.
Thank you very much, and I want to go on record to thank you and your team as well for taking this so seriously, Minister. This is something that means an awful lot to the people back home. Dartmouth Cole Harbour is home to CFB Shearwater, and of course we're right across the Halifax Harbour from CFB Halifax, so we have a lot of Canadian Armed Forces members in Dartmouth Cole Harbour. It's our duty to keep our Canadian Armed Forces safe while they do their very best to keep Canadians safe. So I noticed $5.8 million in increased spending to, says here, improve security for Canadian Armed Forces operations and personnel. Can you give us some details on that, maybe some specifics on the improvements that will be made to the security for our CAF members?
I'll have talk with the details, Vice, if you've got it. But in terms of, we have had this is not, as I mentioned about upgrading our infrastructure, but we also look at from a security perspective as well. We're constantly now looking at where the priorities are and making the right investments in those areas so that our security for our bases is up to date, making sure that our members and their families are safe where they work and where they live. Vice, you have any points to add? Sure.
Yep. Thank you for the question. To ensure the safety of our personnel, as the Minister is talking about, the supplementary includes $5.8 million in capital funding for projects to upgrade security at our bases. The funding is being carried forward from fiscal year of 16-17 to 17-18 due to some delays in the project approval. We have 4 projects that we're funding from this for physical security upgrades in these estimates. So work at the Defence Research Development Canada facility in Halifax, upgrades to physical security in Dundurn, and updates to the security barrier on the South Perimeter Road in Trenton, and the configuring of Albert Boulevard in Trenton. As well, we have 4 projects in these, in addition to these, 2 projects in progress, entry control facilities at Borden and perimeter fencing for facilities at Shiloh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. MP Urdiga, floor is yours. 5 minutes, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, on February 23rd, 2017, in the House of Commons, you stated that we will not be buying used aircrafts for our Air Force. So why is the government buying used jet fighters?
We were, when it comes to our missions that we fly, we didn't have enough aircraft to fly them. And I think we can agree that within our NORAD and NATO commitments, we have to have a certain number of aircraft to fill those needs. We were on a path to, with Boeing, to look at the purchase of brand new Super Hornets, but unfortunately, Boeing took an approach that was undermining our Canadian aerospace sector. And the economy and jobs of Canadians is very important to our government. And hence the reason why were very fortunate at that time when this came about that Australia had was looking at selling their F-18s, the same model that we fly. So we were very
cut
fortunate.
you off, Minister. I only have 5 minutes, but you know, in regards to purchasing the Australian F-18, the International Structural Test Program reveals that the Australian fleet of F-18s were in need of refurbishment, specifically the central barrel replacement. Minister, how many of the Australian F-18s need central barrel replacement?
So I'm happy to actually answer that in detail. Pat, you want to take that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. At this point, we've gone and inspected them. It is something that we looked at in our aircraft as well. Very few, if any, will require replacement. We have had a long-term relationship with the Australians where we have developed a fatigue life management plan over decades of working together. We're very comfortable with the state of the aircraft that we've examined. We actually have done more work on our aircraft. They decided to switch to a new aircraft sooner. We're going to induct the aircraft we require into the same fatigue-like program that we have ours in. We're quite comfortable with the hours we'll get out of them. We'll be pretty consistent with our own aircraft and operate the fleet till up to 2032.
Well, thank you very much. How much does the government predict it will spend on repairs to the used F-18s to bring them to combat-ready status? Remember, combat-ready status.
You want to go ahead?
From an Australian perspective, they're in combat-ready status today. So they continue to operate those aircraft. We're in consultation, in discussion with them about which are the aircraft that have the most life remaining in them. They will be like all of our aircraft. They will continuously be cycled through maintenance, including heavy maintenance, so they will be maintained in combat-ready status.
I don't understand here is your party's approach, you wanted a competition, we have a full competition, and actually more competing for more aircraft than your party had asked for. But we're actually wanting to increase the number of aircraft so that we can actually fly the missions. So I have a difficult time understanding why you have a concern with this, because we have a full competition to replace to up to 88, but also at the same time, we're purchasing more for our women and men in the Air Force so they can actually live up to the commitments that we as a nation signed up for.
Minister. But my time is limited here. Minister, can you table any reports indicating the current conditions of the Australian F-18s and the cost to bring them to Canada?
We have the information, so we can absolutely kind of take that away and provide the information from our inspection on the cost piece.
Once we have done the proper analysis on that, we'll be able to share that information. But we need to go through our due diligence on this. Once we have it, we'll have the right number.
Well, thank you. I think my time's up. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. MP Elsloff.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. I wanted to highlight the NATO Parliamentary Assembly annual report and a fantastic picture of a Canadian HERC. Thanks to the Minister and the team for providing them with the opportunity to visit Canada's Arctic. It was a team of 50 members of Parliament from 29 NATO countries, and it was a very important trip. And so thank you very much, Minister, for such an important engagement in the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. And as you know, we will be hosting 850 parliamentarians to the NATO PA annual session this fall in November. And of course, we are very much hoping that you will be able to find it in your schedule to attend. And further to that, part of what the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, parliamentarians from government parties and opposition all over the NATO ally and partner countries are wrestling with is the education of each of our countries on NATO, its importance to each of our defense and security, and of course the economic and political values and way of life that we enjoy. I understand that Canada is part of the NATO pilot around education for the hashtag We Are NATO. I wonder if you could share at this point any information on what we're doing in that regard and how we see that rolling out.
No, I think it's, we see it quite regularly on social media, and it is important for our citizens to know the importance of NATO. It provides extremely valuable security deterrence for our nations. It sends a very significant message. NATO sends a message to our adversaries, and more importantly, it gives a sense of stability, security for the partner nations. But let's not just look at the partner nations. Let's look at beyond. NATO provides a stabilization function, I would say, for a greater part of the world. The work that they've done in Afghanistan, or actually, sorry, currently doing in Afghanistan, and even looking at efforts in supporting the work in Iraq. We're constantly looking at ways on how we can NATO can to do more in other parts of the world and be supportive of other operations. And I think one of the biggest messages right now, because of the resurgence of what you see with Russia, and I mean we saw just recently the nerve agent attack in the UK. Having our citizens understand the importance of NATO and the unity and what we can bring to bear in terms of deterrence is extremely valuable. When you put our collective budgets together, when you put our collective resources together, it sends a very strong message. But more importantly, you have nations that are part of the rule-based order, that are bringing that sense of stability and confidence to other nations.
Thank you. And just to close out that topic, if there is anything that we as parliamentarians can do, certainly part of the education and working group for the NATO Parliamentary Assembly around educating our citizens and supporting you and your initiative within Canada for the We Are NATO campaign, please can you include us in that so that we can be a united front in terms of educating on NATO.
No, and the biggest one is for nations to support and not rather than pull out support from NATO.
Thank you. Now, you also mentioned in your opening remarks about cybersecurity initiatives and an increase in investment in those areas. We've certainly seen a lot in the news recently, both at home and abroad, about the risks that we face on that front. Could you give us an idea of what some of that money will be used for and how much we're looking at?
No, just we've put a lot of emphasis on national defense, Canadian Armed Forces, and the Canadian Armed Forces also has a cyber component, but CSE really plays a significant role in protecting our critical infrastructure and providing an absolute valuable resource and having literally world-class expertise. and I'm going to have our chief just speak in a second here. But these are the critical investments our government is making to making sure that we stay at the cutting edge, making sure that we're able to have the right experience. And in 30 seconds or less, Greg, can you?
Thank you so much, Minister. And thank you for the question. I think no doubt cybersecurity has become such a large issue, not only for Canada, but for countries around the world. And for over 70 years, CSC has been in the business of helping to provide cyber and IT security to the government and more to the broader Canadian industry and private industry and citizens for that matter. You'll note that in Budget 2018, there has been an announcement of creating a new Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. And we feel very privileged and proud that that centre will be housed within CSE and really will allow us to be able to bring our expertise in a unified way to Canadians, to Canadian private sector, and to the Canadian government.
Thank you. I got one more question. Last question to last 3-minute question to MP Garrison.
And I'll turn my time over to Ms. Blaney from North Island.
Thank you so much. I'm the proud representative of 19 Wing Comox, and I see you were there at the end of January, and I'm very proud and excited about the new SAR training center. But I have a really specific question for the riding. So IMP Aerospace holds the contract for maintenance of search and rescue helicopters in Comox. Currently, 50 employees represented by UNDE Local 1018 have been without a contract since June the 30th, 2015. The issues are not just about wages, it's about health and safety, especially hearing protection, issues of being pressured to go to Greenwood, Nova Scotia, where IMP holds the contract, which is a non-union work environment. So without adequate compensation, without regard to personal and family situation, it's very stressful for the community and the staff. These activities result in poor morale and problems with retention and recruitment, and the most concerning, which is the loss of serious skills that we need. So I'm just wondering if you could share with us, what role does DND have when contractors fail to deal fairly with employees and in making sure that this doesn't affect search and rescue in our region and across Canada?
First of all, I can assure you that search and rescue is an absolute priority for us, and we're actually investing not just the training center in Comox, but also our new fixed-wing search and rescue aircraft that are coming. I had a quick update. Pat, I'm going to see if Pat can answer the other question, but I just want to give you the confidence on this search. There's even additional things that we're going to be looking at in the future, how we stay relevant in search and rescue way into the future.
Thank you for the question. To answer your specific question, per the contract, it's performance of the contract, so how we ensure that there is no impact on the search and rescue capability. It is through the performance measures and the application of the contract and what is delivered there. When it comes to contractors in general and their labor agreements, we're somewhat at arm's length. We monitor that to make sure that it doesn't impact on performance. It is something that occurs on a cyclical basis, but we are generally not directly involved with those labor negotiations, although because it can impact us, we kind of monitor it and engage the company if we have concerns.
Okay, because one of the things that, like I said in the question, is we are actually seeing it at this point. One person has actually left, resigned, because they're just feeling very concerned about the pressure to move. And also, like I said, a lot of these concerns around safety and protection, making sure to protect their hearing, and the feeling that they're being strongly pushed to move from their community to relocate somewhere else far away from their community that doesn't have the union representation. So I think that those are big concerns as we see people with those high level of skills leaving our communities and leaving something so important such as search and rescue.
Okay. And I'm going to have to leave it there. Mr. Bazan wanted to chime in here real quick.
Based upon the testimony today, there's two quick things that I think we require some follow-up on. Mr. Finn, in response to Mr. Yerdiga's questions about the used Aussie F-18, said that they've done an evaluation as well as an assessment on those planes. If you could table that document with the committee, I think would be good. And secondly, Minister Sajjan talked about tabling May 18th the Strong, Secure, Engaged fiscal plan. I would ask that the Minister provides a technical briefing to committee on the day that that is tabled.
Defense investment plan.
As long as you will commit to it. Full technical briefing.
you want to chime in there, Minister?
I'll have a chat with my staff and I'll get back to you.
Okay. I'd like to thank the Minister for your time for coming today, and I'm going to suspend very briefly to let you depart, sir, and then we'll resume with department officials. Thank you. Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Just before we start into another round of questions with our guests, I'd like to give the floor over to MP Alsop. She's got a motion she wants to table in accordance with our study of NATO and authorizing or asking for funds for our trip to Petawawa. MP Alsop.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We discussed a while ago that maybe a site visit to Petawawa to take a look at how they're preparing for NATO involvement. And so I have a motion here that says that in relation to the study of Canada's involvement in NATO, that the committee would travel, and the committee would be accompanied by necessary staff, and for a proposed budget of $4,000 for the committee's travel be adopted.
Quick discussion. We've kind of discussed this. Is more formality so I can seek the funding. We've talked about this. So if there's nothing to discuss, I'd like to put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? None? Carried. Okay.
Just a question, quick.
Sure.
Are you going to make, it's such a short distance, can the entire committee travel, as opposed to just however?
We'll circle back on that after, but I'll take that an undertaking to have a discussion about that afterwards. All right. Given the time remaining, we're going to start at the top of the list. We're going to go 5, 4, 3 in terms of questions, in terms of timings. So the first question will go to the Liberals with MP Fisher. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Okay, I'm also a member of the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development. So I was pleased to see that DND is requesting $6.2 million for funding for remediating federally contaminated sites. So I wonder if you could give me a little more detail, give the committee a little more detail on what the plan is for this remediation, how many sites it might cover, what some of the sites might be, and maybe how many of the sites might be remaining. Just a little more broad depth on the remediation.
The question. I'll start and then I'll ask the Elizabeth Van Allen, our ADM of Infrastructure and Environment, to get into a bit more detail. We're asking for $6.2 million in these estimates for 4 projects: the Esquimalt Harbour Remediation Project, the TCE Valcartier Project in Quebec. It's a very long word. The Goose Bay Remediation Projects and the Alert Curling Club. So those are the 4 biggest priorities in terms of contaminated sites. We're going to continue to allocate money across 4 years into 1920. It was $243 million in total for contaminated sites. Goose Bay, we're working at reducing or eliminating potential risks posed by contaminated areas at 5 Wing. That's estimated to be completed by 2020. The Esquimalt Harbour remediation projects are remediating several contaminated areas of Esquimalt Harbour. It began in 2016 and will continue into 17-18. Activities include dredging, sediment disposal, backfill added to the harbour to bring the seabed back up to the original grade, and containment monitoring. The Alert Curling Club complex assessment, we're looking to confirm levels of contamination for metals and petroleum hydrocarbons at CFS Alert, and that's not been done in 8 years. And then the TCE Valcartier project will design, build, and operate a system that pumps and treats groundwater contaminated with TCE so it's safe for the environment. 4 very major projects.
Excellent, thank you. The $435 million for Strong, Secure, and Engaged. I see that a portion of that is for a health and wellness strategy. Are you able to tell us a little more about that? What it will cover, whether this is new, is this additional money for an existing strategy? A little bit more detail on that.
I'm very happy to. The Total Health and Wellness Strategy funded through Strong, Secure, and Engaged is to cover encompasses the entire department. Total Health and Wellness for serving CAF members, those transitioning to Veterans Affairs Canada, as well as a total health strategy, including mental health for our civilian employees. There is a strong focus on mental health, as you saw earlier in the year when we released with Veterans Affairs Canada the Joint Suicide Prevention Strategy. We are looking at a number of functions: fitness, family support, integrated conflict and complaint management. It encompasses Op Honor, a return to work program, and spiritual resiliency. So it's looking at the entire gamut of health for both civilian and military members of the Department of National Defence and Canadian Armed Forces.
Excellent, thank you. Not sure where I am, Mr. Chair, but
left on this block.
Well, I just one of the things that had been identified was $9 million for funding for personal military management capability transformation project. Can you expand a little bit on exactly what that is?
Yes.
What is the project?
That is that's a software project where the Canadian Armed Forces are upgrading PeopleSoft, which is the base system, in order to get it to the next iteration. It's part of a larger project that will then eventually upgrade the military pay system. It's being done in very distinct steps. It will be it's replacing a very old and fragile system. and it's going to be user-friendly for Canadian Armed Forces members.
Are we learning from the examples of the other pay system that the federal government's been dealing with to make sure that we don't go down the same road?
We are indeed. This one has been rigorously tested. It's been done in phases, and in fact, it was part of a much larger project that we've reduced, and we're upgrading PeopleSoft. Then we're going to improve business rules, and then we'll work on the pay system.
Thank you.
Thank you. MP Galan.
Chairman, and through you to our witnesses, profiteering was a significant problem during the First World War, and I'm hearing concerns that Irving is poised to make extraordinary profits under the monopoly it has in shipbuilding, and it'll make profit on top of profit on top under the program. This is a concern to all taxpayers, especially when we're talking about a $100 billion program. Can you table with the clerk by the end of this week the allowable profit that Irving is eligible to make on the AOPS and the CSC projects? Not the specific contract amount, but the range that it's eligible to make.
I'll ask Pat to speak to this in more detail. The AOPS project is negotiated, and we're working on whether we'll deliver 5 or 6 ships with Irving Shipyards now, the Canadian Navy and PSPC. The surface combatant project, we're still in an RFP process, and I'm not sure that it would be appropriate at this time to talk about the contract, the structure, or the profit for Irving as we're determining who will actually get that contract. But I'll ask Pat.
And just to add, thank you again for the question. Certainly the profit levels on CSC have not been established. Profit on profit is something we watch very carefully for. I think it's important to separate, though, profit on profit from payments that are made to manage subcontractors, which is fairly typical in the industry, contracts of this nature. ISI does not, Irving Shipbuilding doesn't have a monopoly per se. There are ships being built across the country and others that will be competed. The Arctic Offshore Patrol Ship contract was negotiated per the Government of Canada contracting policy. We can get you some information on that. The other parts of it would be subject to third party, but we can take that away. But certainly the profit policy per the Government of Canada that was used is something that is available, sir.
Okay, then can you table with the clerk by the end of this week the specific policy that prohibits Irving from profiteering and making a profit on top of profit, first by using its own companies as the subs, then as part of the cost plus contract it has with Canada? One hopes that there is a policy that prohibits this.
I would suggest that that question is best raised with Public Services and Procurement Canada.
Okay, well, so this cost plus contract Irving has allows it to be rewarded for being late and overpriced. The higher the project costs, the more the profit it makes. The later the project, the more it hurts our military. Can you table with the clerk by the end of this week the reports or any reports or emails you have in the department related to audits of Irving and measures taken to ensure competition and lowest prices to taxpayers under the National Shipbuilding Strategy?
We can table any documents we have to that effect, yes.
Oh, thank you. Now, can you advise on the icebreaking capability of the AOPS vessels and whether or not they can be employed as icebreakers, taking the place of the Canadian Coast Guard vessels in the medium or heavy icebreaker classes?
I'll ask Pat to speak to the specifics of the ship, but as a former commissioner of the Coast Guard, I'm happy to answer that the AOPS vessels are not icebreakers, they're ice capable. An icebreaker has a different design in terms of its stern and the bows specifically to allow it to maneuver around vessels and cut a track in ice. And these vessels will be able to operate in significant ice up to 1 meter thick, and they'll be able to operate in the Arctic, and they would be able to icebreak in an emergency, but as a routine function, that's not what they're designed to do.
The AOPS and JSS are vessels that are still years away from need for maintenance. Can you advise as to how much money DND is allocating for the AGISS contract in each of the next 5 years?
I'll ask Pat and the CFO to speak to that.
Thank you very much for the question. So the first Arctic Offshore Patrol ship, of course, will be delivered into the Navy next year. It will start to require some maintenance at that point. Every 9 months thereafter will be a follow-on ship, so the need to start providing maintenance is emerging. What we have at this point, we've laid out a contract to make sure that, unlike past practices, which would have us at times delivering new fleets, whether aircraft or armored vehicles or ships, and then we're establishing in-service support contracts for people after the fact. The approach we've taken here has enabled us to bring in the suppliers who perform the maintenance so that they can actually see what's happening up front. It is a small amount of overhead. I don't have the exact numbers with me right now, but it's just been payments that will start this coming fiscal year to enable them to be ready once the first AOPS comes into service. Beyond that, for the first 5 years, because we won't dock a ship until 5 years into life, it'll be largely what we call second line, second level maintenance. We don't have the exact numbers with us. We can look at providing what is the cash flow, the expectations of the first 5 years of that contract.
Committee will appreciate having copies of those, preferably by the end of the week.
I'm going to have to end it there. MP Garrison, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So when we look at estimates, there's always this problem of apples, oranges, and other fruit and trying to compare things from year to year. The minister in his presentation made reference to a 5% spending increase for the Canadian Forces or for Canadian Defence overall. And I guess the concern that I run into a lot is that the Canadian Forces are asked to do in their regular operations more and more every year without getting an increase to cover even the rate of inflation. So I guess my question is, in terms of operations for DND, what is the increase in this budget year over year, and is it beyond the military rate of inflation, which tends to run 3 to 4%? Are we actually getting enough to cover those increased costs every year?
Thank you very much for the question, and the CFO loves to delve in detail into the numbers, so I will turn the mic over to him quickly. Mains to mains, it's about $1 billion increase for funding 17-18 to 18-19. So that's for O&M, salary, vote one. In terms of particular ops, if the government decides that the Canadian Armed Forces will take on an operation that is funded through the MC process, we go to government, we lay out the cost of the operation, and generally are reimbursed for it. If it is a specific named operation that we're taking on that is new or even an expanded requirement. But I'll ask the CFO to...
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for your question. So under these current supplementary estimates, we have $779 million of new funding. Of that, on an operating point of view, is $725 million. As the deputy was mentioning, for the new budget coming for 18-19, we have $1.7 billion of new money when you compare mains to mains. Of that amount, $1 billion is for Vote 1 operating. The way we have done it is, and it's coming from like SSC when we did the new defense policy, is we have been looking at what we have as funding. You will recall probably previous year we always talked about the defense escalator that we had at 2%. So that was part of the evaluation. And what we looked at is any operation we have, plus any in-service support that we need for our equipment, capital equipment. And we have applied also, as part of our costing, we have applied also a defense inflation rate into it. So to ensure that from year to year for the next 20 years under the new defense policy, we will have funding for inflation.
And what rate is that you've applied to it?
It depends of what we are looking and what components. So it ranges based on Gantt and report that they have. It ranges between 4 and 6%.
And so I guess where I'm trying to get back to the apples to apples, in terms of regular operating expenses of the Canadian Forces for the next year, what's the percentage increase?
So the percentage increase, it's $1 billion over $15 billion that we'll get for next year. So it will be 6%.
About between
6%.
6%, and that doesn't include any of the new functions then. That's a real apples to apples comparison.
That's an apples to apples comparison of Vote 1. If we're asked to take on a new operation, there would be no funding for that.
And so, for instance, the peacekeeping operation that we're talking about in Mali, where is that in this budget, or will there be a new request that will come forward to support that operation?
New funding.
There was a memorandum of cabinet that went forward for peace support operations, and our CFO would draw down money through the supplementary process for that.
So that'll come to Parliament as a supplementary estimate sometime later in the year. Okay, thanks very much for that. I want to ask a question about something that's been coming up in my riding, and I know it's come up in other members' ridings, and that's the changes in the relocation allowance, both in the way that the relocation allowance operates, and then also a lot of questions about taxable status of relocation benefits. And so maybe I'll ask about the taxable status first of all. There's some concern that now some of the relocation benefits or a portion of that is going to be taxable. Is that a change that has come about?
I am not aware of that change, and that's come up now twice this morning. So what I'd like to do is get back to you with some detail, if that would be okay.
Okay, it's just a concern that that we're hearing locally. The second part is the system used to have local offices and a real person that people could deal with to try and get some idea of how the relocation expenses process was going to work. Now what we have is a portal and call centers. And I know that people are having trouble managing that system and also having some trouble with the preloaded prepaid cards in trying to, I guess, being required to use those to cover expenses. So have you had a report on how this is working? And certainly, are you hearing those same kinds of concerns from people trying to use this relocation system?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end it there. I'm going to turn the floor over to MP Gerritsen.
Thank you very much. Of the 12.2 million that's being spent on NATO, can you elaborate on what that's being spent on specifically, or it's being requested for NATO?
The funding is being used towards contributing to the NATO military budget and the Security Investment Program. It's used to cover operating maintenance costs of NATO military structure and activities, including deployed operations. The CFO can tell you about the mechanics of how NATO funding works, but this isn't us getting money for a specific operation. This is overall our contribution to NATO and what's coming in Sub-C.
Requests in the supplementaries for increases for Operation Reassurance and Unifier. Specifically, can you comment on Operation Unifier and whether the Canadian forces will continue to train the Ukrainian forces in a range of capabilities? Is that what the money is specifically being put towards?
I'll ask the Vice Chief to respond to the operational questions.
So the support to Ukraine is unwavering and will continue as long as the Government of Canada tells us to continue that support with approximately 200 Canadian Armed Forces personnel. Training is focused on small arms training, explosive ordnance disposal, military policing, medical training, and modernizing logistic. So far, we contributed over 16 million in non-lethal military equipment to Ukraine forces, with up to 7.25 million more to be delivered by the end of March. The estimated cost of the renewed mission, 57.75 million over 2 years. DND assumes 50.5 million of that money, and Global Affairs Canada 7.25 million. So far, the Canadian Armed Forces Joint Task Force Ukraine has trained approximately 5,500 Ukrainian soldiers as of 1 February 2018.
But the increase in the supplements is specifically with respect to continuing the operation to help train in terms of increasing their capabilities?
Thank you very much for your question. So yes, exactly. So the amount of money here is specifically for to pay for reservists. So their rate of pay plus allowances, TD, travel, communications. We have also real life support, which is the cost to maintain the camp. And we have also $170,000 on IT that is required for that operation.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
There's still a little bit of time on that side. Does anyone want to chime in here for about a minute and a half?
I'd like to follow up, if I could, on my colleague's question around NATO common funding. Not necessarily part of the Sub-Cs conversation, but because we are studying NATO, could you just elaborate on the fundamental difference between us sending money for common funding versus the money that we spend domestically for our own capability and capital equipment, et cetera, and how that contributes to the 2% NATO commitment of burden sharing?
Thank you very much. So basically, we have, as part of being at NATO, they use a formula to determine the contribution. So Canada, in fact, we contribute roughly $170 million, $140 million from DND, roughly between $30 and $35 million for a GAC, defect, Foreign Affairs. So this is our contribution to NATO for the operation of the organization. So it's the military budget plus the program budget. On top of that, and normally when you look at the percentage that we talk about the contribution, there are two components, the 2%, but there is also a 20% about capital. So I think this is what you're referring to. So any capital investment that we have in national defense, it's included in the formula to look at our contribution. So currently, we are just shy of the 20%, like 19.6 if I recall exactly, so almost there. And with SSC by 26, 27, we are going to increase that to 32%.
Outstanding.
For the next question, so this is just eating into time. You have about 3.5 minutes left if you want to continue.
I would very much like to do so. Thank you. Cybersecurity, we started the conversation, so could you expand a little bit? Because I think as we see the blurring of lines between civilian organizations and the threats to civilian command and control structures, whether it's denial of service for hydro or infrastructure, or whether it's misinformation on civilian platforms like Facebook, over which we have no control of the data, or our email, which isn't within Canadian control. Can we ensure that we don't have a CSE stovepipe, a military stovepipe, a CSIS stovepipe, and then a whole bunch of civilian organizations that are at risk, but that affect our overall sovereignty?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. As I mentioned earlier, a safe and secure cyberspace truly is important for the stability of our country and for the prosperity of our country, and it's a core mandate of the Communications Security Establishment's mission and our overall mandate. Your question around how we govern ourselves around cybersecurity, if I could put it that way, maybe I'll offer a couple of comments. First of all, I can assure the committee that up to this point, we work very closely with all of the various partners that you mentioned. So with the Public Safety Department, for example, that runs a response center that deals directly with citizens and with the private sector. We work very closely with our colleagues in Shared Services Canada, who were focusing on protecting the Government of Canada systems. And through a very robust process. We have over 1 billion probes a day now into the Government of Canada systems that we are protecting with our colleagues in Shared Services, probes trying to get malicious probes into the Government of Canada systems. We also work very closely with our partners in the Canadian Armed Forces, ensuring that the Canadian Armed Forces systems are secure as well. And more we're working with private industry as well, to your point, that they're trying to ensure that their overall systems are secure and that we are doing everything we can really to operate as a bit of an ecosystem to ensure that we're sharing best practices, sharing lessons learned. No one can have all the answers in this field. We definitely recognize that. So how do we ensure that we're working collectively across all those various communities? The item that I mentioned that was put forward in Budget 2018 is a bit of a milestone now in terms of ensuring that we operate even closer together. So it talks about the establishment of this Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity that would be an operational hub, one sort of central trusted source of advice and guidance for the Government of Canada, for private industry, for Canadians writ large. So really unifying all of our cybersecurity operations, our advice and guidance into a consolidated centre that would be able to be that one source of trusted advice and guidance. The centre, again, was just announced, so we also see the centre being a really important, having an important role for response. So when a cyber incident occurs, that there is, again, a common place to go to for providing advice and guidance for response after a cyber incident. I understand my time is up, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. MP Bizan.
Chair, In Operation Impact, we had committed to providing about $10 million worth of weapons to the Kurdish Peshmerga. My understanding that those weapons were purchased and they're sitting in storage in Montreal. When are we planning on actually delivering that military equipment and aid to the Peshmerga?
Thank you very much for the question. You're correct that the weapons have been purchased. It is critical that we ensure end-user agreements are in place according with the laws of armed conflict and all applicable international law before any equipment is delivered. This equipment is being stored in Amman and in Montreal until such time as these conditions are met.
What's your expected time frame of those agreements been signed, or even if they will be signed?
They've not been signed to my knowledge, and I would not want to be predicting a time when they would be at this point.
Who's leading those discussions to get those agreements in place?
Go ahead. Yeah, it is the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs.
Global Affairs.
I'll forward my next questions that way. I want to return back to the issue of the cut of special allowance pay to ill and injured soldiers who cannot return back to work within 6 months. Why was that policy instituted? It wasn't in place before, and do you not see this as being a deterrent for those that are suffering from mental health illnesses and injuries from actually stepping forward if they suspect that they could lose their special allowance pay? I know with our Special Operation Forces members, it could be upwards of $23,000 a year that they could see cut.
It's a very difficult question, and I know it's been one that's been discussed at this committee previously. The allowances for Special Forces members who are serving in the forces, if they're injured, they're given 6 months where the allowance is continued. At the end of 6 months, the determination is made whether they can return to that function or not. But it is an allowance for serving Special Forces members. If they, in 7 months, can go back to work, they go back to their position and they get the allowance. If they can't return to work after 6 months, what's critical is that we provide rehabilitation services, medical care, mental health care for the employees so that we can return them to work. But the allowance is for those who are deployed in the field conducting the work of Special Forces. And unfortunately,
more than just Special Forces, the special allowances also go to fighter jet pilots, to submariners, to our SARTECs.
But it is for people who are serving in the field in those particular functions. And if after 6 months of rehabilitation or medical leave or whatever is required for the member, they can't go back to the function.
But in the United States, the UK and Australia, they give 12 months.
Something we could certainly look at, but every structure is different in every armed forces around the world, as I'm sure you appreciate.
Okay. My final question, Mr. Finn, I want to talk about the used Australian fighter jets again. The cost of refurbishment plus the possibility that the Aussies aren't going to be turning them over to us as quickly as we originally had hoped, because they still need them till they have all their F-35s in place to replace them. Why don't we just expedite the entire process to speed up the competition so that we can make a decision sooner rather than wait for used fighter jets?
Thank you, sir, for the question. So, on the one hand, we are working to expedite the acquisition.
But there, it's a big question to ask with very little time remaining. I'm going to have to turn the floor over to MP Elslove.
Thank you very much. I'd like to continue on the procurement conversation, because when the minister was here, he made some comments about there's no issues with lapse funding and stuff like that. The challenge is actually in our ability to execute on the programs, because we don't necessarily have, if I understand him correctly, the program and procurement staff within the department to be able to execute on these programs. Could you confirm if that's what he meant? And if so, what performance metrics are we using to ensure that we do put those teams in place as quickly as possible? And what's the consequences to those program managers when they don't?
Thank you very much for the question. This is something that's near and dear to our hearts. In terms of the money that we're not bringing into SSE for capital this year, there are 4 aspects to that. Some of it is money that wasn't spent because the project was done more efficiently, completed more efficiently. Some of it was the supplier wasn't ready, and therefore there was a delay. Some of it is put aside particularly for one question of intellectual property with the surface combatant, and then some of it is our ability internally. So restaffing and growing the procurement staff, the contract staff, the policy staff, and the staff at PSPC is near and dear to our hearts, and something that Mr. Finn and our HR civilian folks are working diligently on. We had positive growth in the procurement staff last year, and I'll ask Pat to give you the details on exactly what he's doing to grow his team.
Thank you very much for the question. As the deputy indicated, it really is procurement, I'd say, across the town, as you appreciate. So both in defense, so for the Army, Navy, Air Force, how they can advance things in the context of option analysis. Within the material group, so the project managers, the procurement specialists, the technical specialists, we have been growing the last few years at about 10% a year on the civilian side. So we hire about 500 people a year. About 70% of that is replacement for people who retire and do other things. Other parts has been growth. So we are actively doing that. I would say right now there are none that are holding up any of the projects per se. As the deputy said, there's a number of areas really important where suppliers have not been able to deliver. And like we experienced in the tactical...
Fair enough, but you did mention that there were programs where it's our ability and where it's the supplier. We have the ability to execute on that. We hold suppliers accountable for their performance, and we hold ourselves accountable for our performance to execute on highly important programs, or they wouldn't be in SSC. So could you please give us some indication of how we are measuring ourselves internally and what the consequences of not delivering are?
Thank you very much for the question. So not delivering internally or not delivering by suppliers? Yeah, so not delivering internally within my span of control. We have a very detailed performance measures that we bring to our program management board. We look at, I have over 300 projects, about over 10,000 contracts under management. We have metrics that we use for the highest level. We have reports that we bring monthly to a panel of assistant deputy ministers. We bring it to central agencies. Again, not performing, if it's based on the performance of an individual, we will take action there and move people around. Where it's clearly a lack of, I'll say, direction or potentially leadership or management by somebody who's key in that process.
MP Urdiga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to give you the opportunity, Mr. Finn, to answer my colleague's question, MP Bizan, regarding the Australian fighter jets, which there's no real delivery date on it at this point, and the practicality of actually speeding up the procurement process for a newer fighter jet or a new fighter jet.
Thank you very much again for the question. Future fighters. So we have completed the kind of the source list, a bit of a pre-qualification that's now done and in place. We have reduced it to the 5 key suppliers, but we engaged with nations. These will come in different fashions. We are as early as next week, again with our colleagues at Public Service and Procurement Canada, I said, engaging with the industry and those suppliers with the idea of trying to move out with all of their input and get a firm solicitation out in the early part of next year is our target, to be able to move out on that smartly. There is a reality in advancing any acquisition that we're subject to the order book of the suppliers. So at any case, we're looking to be out next year to be in contract no later than 2022. And we're assuming a 3-year delivery to the first aircraft. As we talk generally to suppliers, that may advance or get retarded depending on the order book of suppliers for the future fighter. So the reality is, no matter what we do, we have to realize we're one of many customers, and what we're going to do, hence the need to top up through the Australians. We are having very good and active consultation. We would see all of the Australian aircraft delivered over the next 3 years, so starting next summer next summer, next fall, with a small amount of about 3 aircraft, then through 6 the following year and 9 thereafter. We are working with the Australians and closely with the U.S. government. This is subject to what's called a third-party transfer under the kind of international arms control agreement regime of the Americans. Again, we don't see any stumbling blocks there, but we have to satisfy all the parties for it. But again, we would see right now and have some positive indications from the Australians that by next summer the first aircraft would be here. We would be bringing them over, and then a pretty quick drumbeat thereafter.
So what I understand, the timetable for the Australian F-18 is hinged on the ability of Australians to get the F-35. So if there's a delay of a year or longer, that means there's a delay for us getting the F-18s.
There could be a delay, absolutely, whether they want to hold on to all of their aircraft. Like us, they have a certain portion of their fleet that is always undergoing heavy maintenance. By virtue of aircraft that they are going to dispose of, they're going to cease doing that and be parking some aircraft. So those are potentially the ones that we could bring in, carry on the heavy maintenance here in Canada and continuing to do it. The F-35As are well into delivery, with multiple countries now having the F-35. So the indications appear to be that they will get those as indicated, which would free them up for us. So the potential is there. We would describe that aspect of it as certainly low risk.
Mr. Finn, do we know the cost of the purchase of the Australian F-18s? Is there a fixed cost to this?
So as the minister indicated, we don't have the final agreement with Australia. We have gone back and forth with, I'll say, increased amount of certainty until the U.S. government approves the third-party transfer. That is when it will enable us to kind of finalize it all. We have, I guess, a kind of a bit of a preliminary understanding of it. We've worked it up at I think a previous testimony here. We've talked about having set aside $500 million for all of the work we need to do. So we're growing a fleet, so increased infrastructure and other things as well. We don't have the final cost developed until such time as we sign the final agreement with the Australians.
That's your time, MP Urdiga. I'm going to give the second last question to MP Ellsworth, and then MP Garrison.
That's all my questions.
Okay. Last one to you, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to go back then to the relocation question and give Deputy Minister a chance to respond to the question I was asking earlier about problems with the new system.
I have heard the same problems as you have, so thank you for raising it. The credit card in particular, there are service charges on that card that we are reimbursing for, so that's been taken care of. When we've had individual problems with cards, we've got those rectified very quickly. But the portal lack of face-to-face, we are encountering more difficulty with that transition to that way of service than we had anticipated. And so it is something that's being looked at now. I don't see it being changed in this posting season, but we'll do a full evaluation of how the posting season went and be able to report back.
Great, thanks very much. I want to ask about recruitment and retention, which I always ask about. And in the presentation by the minister, it was lumped together with other things into a $417 million amount, but I suspect the amount of that for recruitment and retention is actually quite a bit smaller. So I was wondering if you could let me know how much of that new allocation goes to recruitment and retention, because if we're going to achieve even the 1% goal of increasing women in the military every year, which is quite slow, it would take 35 years to get to equity, but even if we're going to achieve that, we're going to have to do triple probably our traditional increases in the number of women coming into the Canadian Forces. So there's a big job there, and I just wonder how much has been allocated to recruitment and retention programs.
I'll ask the CFO if he has the specific number. If not, we can get it to you from the Chief Military Personnel. When we announced the defense policy, the percentage of women in the Canadian Armed Forces was 15%. It is now 17%. So that's a combination of recruitment, but also better retention. Retention is as critical, as you note, as recruitment. We've invested a lot of money in training the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces, and every one we lose represents a huge loss, both to operational capability, but also to gender equity across the forces. And the women who are in the forces now, they've chosen to be there. Women who've served throughout time in the Canadian Armed Forces, they want to be there, they've chosen to be there. Programs are now being modernized, conditions of service, opportunities, and to allow for better retention. It's something that the Chief of Military Personnel, the Chief of Defence Staff, the Vice Chief of Defence Staff, the entire military infrastructure is focused on to ensure that not only do we recruit more, the retention numbers go up.
With reference to the amount, I don't have it with me, but I have a report on my desk, and I know that I have that answer, so we can provide it very quickly.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. One of the last things, if I just can have a minute here, is in the last Parliament, we lost some of the recruiting that was being done in remote and rural areas. And these are often places where employment opportunities and educational opportunities are more limited. And so I'm just wondering whether we've been able, with the budgetary allocations, to restore some of those programs, in particular that visited First Nations reserves and some of the more rural and remote communities, in terms of making people aware of the opportunities in the Canadian Forces.
The recruiting budget has been increased overall, and we will get you the number. Focusing on rural communities has always been a priority, and I think hand in hand with that goes the increased funding for the reserves. So full-time summer employment for reservists, many of whom come from remote communities. It is their summer job, it is their employment, and it's actually then becomes a opportunity to join the regular force. So there's a number of programs that are going on hand in glove to change both the recruitment and the retention sort of view of the world.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for appearing. Just before I dismiss us as a committee, if I could just review some of the things that the committee had asked for. Clarification on the relocation allowance would be appreciated. It came up a couple times today. There was a request for documents with regard to interim fighter and shipbuilding. I appreciate some of that will rest with PSPC, so it's not in your hands, and I also appreciate some of that is in active negotiation. But if you could share with the committee what you're able to, we would appreciate that thing. And I would like to say thank you for coming today, and thank you all for your service to Canada.
Thank you.